To set up the robot lawnmower, you will need the following tools, which are not included in the box. Before you start installing the robot lawnmower, it is important to make a sketch of the garden. Remember that there must be a power supply in the garden where the charging station will be placed. The garden sketch must include all trees, bushes, flower beds, and any obstacles in relation to the planned position of the boundary cable. Before you begin to install the robot, it is important that you remove all objects from the lawn, such as twigs, stones, toys, and the like. You are now ready to install the charging station. Be aware that the charging station must be positioned where it can be perfectly level. Use a spirit level to adjust the charging station in place. You should be aware that there must be an area of 2 meters free from obstacles in front of the charging station. Wait to secure the charging station with the pegs and to connect the power. This must be done at the end of the installation process. Laying out the boundary cable. You should now start laying out the boundary cable. You will need to use all the tools shown in the picture. You must start behind the charging station. There should be a little extra cable to be used for adjustment and connection later on. Maintain a distance of 30 centimeters to the edge, which you can measure using the ruler provided. Make sure that the boundary cable lies taut along the lawn. You will need approximately 2 pegs per meter of cable, as there is a risk that the robot will cut the cable if it is too loose. If there are flagstones that are the same height as the lawn, the boundary cable must be 10 centimeters from the edge, as the robot will be able to run along the edge with one set of wheels. If there is a height difference between the lawn and the flagstones, there must be a distance of 30 centimeters. If there is an obstacle in the garden, the boundary cable must be laid 30 centimeters from the edge of the obstacle. If there is an obstacle that is less than 10 centimeters in height, the obstacle must also be surrounded by the boundary cable. This forms an island, which you can read more about in Step 2 of the manual. Bushes in the garden must also be surrounded by the boundary cable. In order to install the charging station, use the tools shown, which you should ideally get out and place by the charging station. Once you have reached all the way around with the boundary cable, it must be connected to the charging station. Lift the charging station up and insert the boundary cable through the fixing points on the underside of the charging station. It is important to ensure that the boundary cable is completely taut. Leave a short length of extra boundary cable behind the charging station. You will need this for the final adjustment before the cable is cut. Attach the metal bracket and lock the pegs in. You are now ready to connect the boundary cable to the charging station. Use pliers or another tool to strip about 10 to 15 millimeters off the cord. The boundary cable that comes in from the side must be attached to the terminal marked S1. The boundary cable that goes under the charging station must be attached to the terminal marked plus. Now connect the power. The LED on the charging station will now display a solid green light. However, when the charging station charges the robot, it will display a red light. If the LED unexpectedly does not display a solid light, but flashes green instead, this may be because the boundary cable has been installed incorrectly. Swap the cables on the plus and S1 terminals. If the charging station constantly flashes green, this may be because the boundary cable has been accidentally cut. Examine the boundary cable throughout the garden and find the break in the cable. Once you find the break, repair it using a new piece of boundary cable. Squeeze one connector on, adjust the new piece of boundary cable, and repeat at the other end. Ensure that the connectors are properly squeezed together. You are now ready to start your new robot lawnmower. Turn on the robot's main power switch, which is located on the rear of the robot. Open the display cover and press the on button. Once the robot has started, it will ask for a PIN code, which is preset to 1, 2, 3, 4. You must also set the correct time and date on the robot. Once this is done, the robot is ready. Press the start button and close the cover. The robot will now start cutting the grass. However, be aware that the robot is pre-programmed to mow the lawn between 9 and 12 on weekdays. This can easily be changed in the robot's cutting time menu, which you can read more about in the robot's manual. When you receive your machine, it is actually ready to mow your lawn right away. It then returns to the charging station to recharge for its next session.